بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. It's my pleasure to be with our youth from all over the ASEAN region in this program on building dreams, the foundation for collective future success. I would like to talk to you about the concept of Madani Malaysia from a historical and future aspect. I think as youths, you should be thinking about big things. You should be thinking about the big future, where we are going. Your thinking must be big. Stop thinking about small things. Stop being busy with small things. You need to keep yourselves busy with the big things. Why? Because you, the youths, you are our future. You are the future of the Ummah. So your thinking must be about big ideas. These ideas should be spanning history, from history, the present, and the future, because you need to combine the three in order to think well. History gives rise to the present, and the present gives rise to the future. So you must think about the three phases. So I'm going to discuss this concept of Madani Malaysia within the context of historical precedents. And I want to leave to you to think about the present and the future, because that's your job as young people. And I think you should always be able to see the big picture over a long-term perspective. We're not talking about next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. No, we have a long-term perspective. If we do not think high and wide, we'll only be busy with the small problems and we'll miss the big picture. And when you miss the big picture, you cannot move straight. You cannot move with confidence. You cannot move with resolution. Now, my talk is centered around the word pax. This is a Latin word which means peace. It has been applied to historical periods in which there were conditions of peace for a long time, economic progress, and flowering of culture. Now, when we say pax, we follow it with a Latinized form of a country or region. And I'll be telling you about several paxes. We have Pax Britannica, Pax Americana, Pax Islamica. So it means a long time of peace, economic progress, and cultural growth. But the word pax here, you need to understand, is used in the relative sense. It doesn't mean that there were no wars. No, there was peace generally. Most people lived in peace, but still, wars, humans being humans, always have wars and struggles. But alongside that, there was development and prosperity. We, for example, have got the example of the Ottoman state, this Muslim Pax, Muslim state. It continued for about 600 years. But one historian told me that there were only 28 years in this long history when there was no war going on somewhere in the Ottoman state. So I want you to understand, we talk about peace for the majority of the people, but it doesn't mean that there is no struggle at all. So it's relative peace. I'll give you examples of what is called real pax and what is disputed. Now, Pax Romana, all historians agree that was a real pax. There was a time when the Roman Empire had relative peace for a long time. Pax Islamica also, historians agree there was a time when the Islamic State had peace for a long time. The same with Pax Britannica. Britain became a world empire, ruling countries and people from the Americas to East Asia. And then there is Pax Americana, which is the Pax that we are living through now. These ones, yes, people agree they are real Pax or real empires. Now, some Paxes are disputed, and some Paxes are for the future. I want you to think about the future. Think about the possibility of Pax Malaysiana, which I think has got its beginnings in Madani, Malaysia. Now let us look at the details. Pax Romana. There was a period of 200 years in Roman history, which was called the Golden Age. It was a period of relative peace and prosperity and tranquility. It started about 27 before the Christian era and ended in the year 180 of the Christian era. The Roman Empire was a big state, 70 million. And at that time, it comprised 33% of the world population. So it was a Pax Romana, peace and prosperity over a large area. But it ended, like everything ends. Then there was the Pax Islamica. This one developed in several stages, but it stayed a long time, and it made many achievements. The start of Pax Islamica was the Madinan society, Ahad al-Risala, Ahad al-Nubuwwa. That was really our golden age, followed by the Ahad al-Khilafa. Both of them, Ahad al-Risala and Ahad al-Khilafa, were the golden age of Islam. It's a really golden age of Islam. But at that time, we didn't have much in terms of material growth of technology, growth of science. But in terms of ideology, it was very pure expression of what Islam is. And on the social scene, it was the best model of an Islamic society. The Madinan society was a model that all of us need to go back to. But the material achievements in science and technology came later, in what is called the dynasties, Ahad al-Muluk. We had 3 dynasties in the past 14 centuries. We had the Umayyad period, Al-Ahad al-Umawi, which lasted about 90 years. Then we had the Abbasid period, which lasted a long time, but most of the time it was going through weaknesses. In the first 300 years, it was strong. Then the next 300 years, it was weak. Then we had the Ottoman, Al-Ahad al-Dawla al-Uthmaniyya, Al-Ahad al-Uthmani, which lasted until only 100 years ago. Many people do not realize that Pax Islamica continued as Pax Ottomanina until 1926. That's when Kemal Ataturk destroyed the Khilafah, nearly 100 years ago. So Pax Islamica has been around for a long time. And it was a real Pax Islamica because although it was not a unitary state in that sense, Muslims everywhere felt that they were part of the Khilafah. Muslims in their minds, whether in Africa or in Aceh, they knew they were under the Sultan. Although they have never seen him, he has never given them a direct order. And most of our states used to carry a red flag, which is the flag of the Ottoman state. So the concept of one state, one Pax Islamica, was there at least in the minds of all the Muslims in different parts of the world. Now let us look at Pax Britannica. Britain became a superpower after it defeated France in 1815 at the Battle of Waterloo. And it continues being a superpower until the First World War. That's when Britain took over and controlled a lot of Africa a lot of Asia, including Malaysia. But after the First World War, Britain became exhausted and became weak until today. It's no longer a first-class power. But during the period of Pax Britannica, there was a period of economic prosperity. Let me emphasize that this prosperity of a few, but majority of the people were still suffering. And there was a lot of technological development. Cars were discovered, the train was discovered, factories started producing clothes and other goods. And English became the lingua franca of the world. Everybody speaks English in most countries today. Even after Britain has declared as a superpower, the English language is still the language that all of us Muslims and non-Muslims use. So that is Pax Britannica. As history goes, it ended. Quran tells us, تِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Allah says the days are recycled among people. So time came when Pax Britannica came to an end. Now, when Britain declined after the First World War, America started rising. And following the Second World War, the US became the dominant economic and cultural power in the world. It's still a superpower, although it is facing many internal and external challenges. We cannot have an idea how long it will stay as a superpower or how long Pax Americana will stay. But like all empires, one day it will come to its end. Now, there are other paxes that are mentioned in history, but there are disputes among people. Are they really paxes? Were they really an extensive area of peace, economic prosperity, and control by a central authority? Pax Mongolica, as you know, the Mongols rose out of Mongolia and conquered most of Asia. And they came and conquered the Middle East. Then they moved into Europe. They had a very big empire. But the Mongols never settled down to develop the other aspects of a pax, like the economy, like the political system, administrative system, cultural system. It was a fighting culture. It was war all the time. So there is dispute whether we should call it a Pax Mongolica. We have Pax Melayu in the Semenanjung, in the Malay archipelago. We had a common culture, a common language, a common religion, from Banda Aceh to the Papua New Guinea, the other end of the Indonesian archipelago, including Malaysia and Brunei, and also going until the Philippines. So there was a culture and in a way a language. But did it become a centralized authority, dominating, controlling? That is debatable. And there are different views. Then there is Pax Francia. France also developed a powerful state, a powerful empire, ruling parts of Africa, the Americas, and Asia. But again, it's one of those that we can still discuss about whether there was really, it was a Pax. Pax Germanica didn't actually happen. Germany was never a united country, but around 1870, Count Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck, united the various German states to make a German empire. It started off very strong. It defeated France, defeated many other countries around, but within 40 years, it ended because it was defeated in the First World War and became weak again. And it tried to come back in the Second World War. It couldn't come back. So Pax Germanica maybe was never there. Pax Rusica, Russia after the Second World War, arose as a power. It controlled a lot of Central Asia and Eastern Europe, and had influence all over the world, spreading socialism and communism. But its control also is disputable. You can discuss that, historians can discuss, you also can debate, but in the around 1989-90, the Russian Pax virtually started collapsing. And that collapse started with the defeat in Afghanistan. After they were defeated in Afghanistan, they couldn't rise again. Pax Japonic also didn't form properly because after the Second World War, and after the First World War and during the Second World War, Japanese armies spread throughout Asia. They took China, virtually all of East Asia, Southeast Asia, including Malaysia and Indonesia, the Philippines, but it was short lasting. It was only fighting. Pax Japonica didn't develop conditions of peace and economic prosperity. I didn't write here Pax Hispanica, the Spanish. The Spanish also had a big empire in the Americas and also in the Philippines, some parts of Africa. But we keep on debating whether this is a true Pax or not a true Pax. I will leave that debate to you and to the historians. Now, I want to talk about the future, and that's why I want you to think deeply about this. There is the concept of Pax Sinica. This is China, Latin for China. Is China developing into a Pax? It's debatable. Let us see. You need to think, will it be able to replace the other countries and become a future Pax? We do not know. History will tell us. What we can think about really, I want to think about Pax Malaysianana in the long run. And I think when we talk about Madani Malaysia, we are really beginning to talk about this Pax Malaysianana. Inshallah, it can happen. But youths, you have to think hard. It's not only enough to think hard, you have to look at the future and not be hasty. Changes do not occur suddenly. What starts as Madani today may become a real Pax later on. So I just want to leave you with the concept that we shouldn't be hasty. We should have the patience to look in the long run. I know young people tend to want to do things quickly. Things don't happen suddenly. There is a hadith reported by Bukhari. The Sahaba said, Shakawna ila Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We complained to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam when he was lying down in the shade of the Kaaba. فقلنا, we said to him, ألا تستنصر لنا ألا تدعو لنا يا Rasulullah, why don't you pray for us? We are in a lot of trouble. We are being oppressed. فقال, the Prophet said, قد كان من قبلكم, those who came before you, يؤخذ الرجل فيحفر له في الأرض. A man would be caught and they would dig a hole for him and he would be thrown in the hole. فيجاب المنشار, and they bring a saw. فيوضع على رأسه, and they put a saw on his head. فيجعل نصفين, and he would be cut into two. Okay? And then they would separate the meat from the bones. But that punishment didn't make them move away from their deen. So the Prophet was telling them that we can go through a lot of difficulties, a lot of suffering. But then here is the glad tidings, the good news. Wallahi, لَيَتِمَنَّ هَذَا الدِّينِ, this religion will be completed. حتى يسير الراكب من صنعاء, until somebody can ride on a horse or donkey from Sana'a, this is northern Yemen, إلى حضرموت, this is in western Yemen, this is about 1,000 kilometers. One person riding in that desert, that long distance, لا يخاف إلا الله, he fears only Allah, because there will be conditions of peace throughout the land. The only thing that he will be fearing is Allah. He feels at peace with everything. The only thing that he would fear also was الذئب على غنمه. He fears that the foxes may attack his goats that he's moving with. But otherwise, it's complete peace. That's Pax Islamica that the Prophet ﷺ had predicted and actually happened. But then the lesson that the Prophet gave the Sahaba, and I want to give to you, وَلَكِنَّكُمْ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. But you young people, تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ, you are hasty. You want things to happen tomorrow. You are in a hurry. Things don't happen in a hurry. Things take time. So let us, inshallah, start the building today with Madani concepts. Inshallah, it may become a pax in the long run. Thank you very much for listening to me. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.